The word home can be coined in many different ways, but for some, it means Keppel Club. The building that holds more meaning than any of us really know. Through the laying of its foundations, the families that walk through its halls, as well as the life that thrives on its grounds, Keppel Club has become home for many individuals. Sadly, this home will soon be just a memory. This is the story of Keppel Club. The land that Keppel Club stands on is in itself a place of history, even before the establishment of the country club. What was once a seaport for pirates, known also as Orang Laut, has since become a sacred ground for golfers, club members, and many of the long-serving staff who call Keppel home. Previously a safe haven for Keppel Bay employees, the club through the years has become a strong golf and country club that can be considered a household name for many Singaporean families.
The Keppel heritage, that we have a lot of fauna and flora that need to be protected. Obviously, we have this mangrove creek, which is quite unique right now. And we had also a village at the end that nobody knew about. So we were trying to promote history, fauna, flora, etc.
The development of the harbor in the area has its roots in 1842, when Admiral, then Captain, Sir Henry Keppel arrived in Singapore to eradicate piracy in the region. He discovered the deep water anchorage in the harbor earlier observed by Lord William Farquhar, and returned many times later in his life to oversee its development. A survey of New Harbor initiated by Keppel was completed in 1849. This set in motion the development of the harbor. In honor of his contributions to the area, New Harbor and New Harbor Road were renamed Keppel Harbor and Keppel Road, respectively, in 1900.
Keppel Club has always been a part of the history of Singapore. It's 100 over years old, and so these are things that I think in the years to come we will never be able to savor that history. Just by being here, you can feel the history in it by itself.
Bukit Cermin was inhabited as early as 1848, when W.P.W. Kerr of Patterson Simmons & Co. built the Cliff House, which was demolished after a fire around the 1860s at its summit. Kerr, a prominent businessman, would become one of the founding partners of the New Harbor Dock Company. 4 other bungalows were built on the slopes of the hill probably somewhere in the 1900s, when the newly formed Singapore Harbor Board took over the running of the docks at Tanjong Pagar and Keppel Harbor. The bungalows on Bukit Cermin belong to a very specific period of the black and white, or tropical mock Tudor house. The black and white houses quickly emerged in great numbers in the early 1900s and went away equally as fast in the 1940s, creating a unique phase in the history of architecture in Singapore. These historical architectural landmarks can still be found along Bukit Cermin today, nestled amidst the development of towering new condominiums.
My team and I looked at the golf land area. There were a few old bungalows which already the PSA said too old to repair, and there were some white ants infestation, and also they said they would rather demolish it. And we requested the PSA at that time, if you demolish the bungalows and you don't want to use the land so much, maybe we can just expand the golf course over these pieces of land. And PSA considered it and said, okay. And so we then found that, hey, we can just about squeeze an 18-hole golf course on the land. In addition, We could even have a cart path around it where we could drive buggies.
Keppel Club, first known as Keppel Golf Club, was built in 1904. It was founded by enthusiastic junior assistants from the same shipping company, Patterson, Simmons & Co. Established at a time when golf's popularity was quickly spreading island-wide, it hardly came as a surprise to learn that as early as 9 years from its founding, maps in England were already showing the club's location as a place of interest. The land that the club sits on saw many changes in ownership, including a period of time during World War II where the location was used by the Japanese, who built their headquarters on Fairway 1 and a sawmill workshop on Fairway 18. Many of Keppel Golf Club's records were lost during this tumultuous period when the original clubhouse suffered heavy damage. The club would emerge from the war with the golf course relatively unscathed, but it would be almost 3 years after the end of the Japanese occupation before the club was revived by two of its stalwarts, the pre-war honorary secretary W. Dawson and the old captain R.J. Fenning. On June 18, 1948, it was agreed that Keppel Golf Club would be merged with the old Singapore Harbour Board Social Club and become Keppel Club, thus making the start of the club's new name. Initially serving Europeans in the Singapore Harbour Board and European shipping companies, the club would later admit Asian officers who were appointed to higher positions. In the 1960s, control over key facilities was transferred from the British to the local government as part of Singapore's movement towards self-rule. As part of this, the Singapore Harbour Board was replaced by the Port of Singapore Authority, or PSA. This would later see the PSA taking over the club's management, sparking off a period of change for the club.
As you know, the Keppel Club actually is administered, its administration and the land belonged to the former Singapore Harbour Board and its successor, which is the PSA and the PSA Corporation. So the senior officials of the club were always appointed by the PSA. So I was asked one day by the chairman and said, look, the former president is retiring. Would you like to take over? And so that began the journey of being at the club for the 22 years. That's the time.
2002, I was blessed by Mr. Ng Chi Keong to take over as the president of the club. And I was very blessed because Mr. Gun, my predecessor, had done a great job preparing the new cause and also doing up many new things for the club. So when I took over, it was just about to celebrate the 100 years anniversary and opening of the golf course.
Wow, I think I joined the club in 93. I think it's about 93 if I'm, just after we renovated the whole clubhouse and but it was still the old golf course.
I was approached by Chairman Fook Siew Hua to be president of Keppel Club when I was just about to retire from Parliament as an NMP. His concern was, can we get an extension in our lease?
I became president sometime in 2012. Until now, I think it's about 10 years. I think what I'd like to remember at Keppel Club is my children and me grew up here in Keppel Club, and my grandchildren too. And we used to play tennis, play arcade games, swimming, and driving range.
Keppel Club holds many generations of members, some of whom have dedicated much of their lives towards making the club into what it is today. Their stories are as much a part of Keppel Club's history as the changes that its facilities have undergone. With massive upgrades being conducted in the 1980s, renovation of premises and facilities in the 1990s, and redevelopment of the golf course as we entered the 21st century, Keppel Club would slowly transform into the place that members know and love today. Through the years, many people have taken an interest in what the club was offering: a home. Many generations later, the club has reached the end of a chapter at Bukit Cermin and is off to a new adventure in Sime Road.
And when we heard about the government going to take it back, actually, I was very, very disappointed.
We expected to be the lease to be extended, but when the government told us that the lease was the land was required for private housing, we were devastated.
I already knew, so it was no surprise to me. And that was the main reason why I left at the end. I stepped down as president in 2012. And after all the work and effort we put in, it didn't look as if there was any possibility.
We tried very hard to modify and come up with plans to be part of that lifestyle by the sea. But when 2014 comes and the government announced that the lease is not to be renewed, it was a great disappointment to me, because I think that effort that we put in, the massive effort that we put in to be part of that master plan, wasn't taken into account. It wasn't appreciated.
It's a bit sad to be able to say that we have to leave the place. But as I said, we understand the need for land. So my hope is that the land that is being freed here will be put to the best use to benefit the people of Singapore.
Besides the pioneering of Keppel Club, the Bukit Cermin area, and the vast changes in this corner of Singapore, there is plenty more history that forms part of the great adventure that transformed our club into what it is today. The club has truly endured the test of time. Perhaps we can be likened to a phoenix, coming back stronger after reforging ourselves through these challenges. But once the nostalgic winding road leading to the club is no longer traveled, how many stories will be left behind? We look at the stories that have been written on the club's land as Keppel Club's last chapter.